Yes, thank you, Bimanto. Florence Armin back. Thank you for joining us on Berita Satu on a live coverage of the World Economic Forum on East Asia. Now, you have just seen Blaze Hope on a conversation with Edwin Utama, the head of Jakarta office for BCG, and right now with me I have Scott Kronick from the President and CEO of Ogilvy Public Relations. Scott, thank you so much for joining us. Now, all these discussions that has been going on are the topics that's been discussed, and one of the important aspects of getting this discussion rolling and not ensuring that discussion doesn't stop here is communications.
Right.
Right, and do you think and how is let's I would like to talk about AEC, the Asian Economic Community that is taking flight very soon. How do you think the communications between business to business, business to government, the government to the public and private sectors on the implementation of this integrated economy?
Well, obviously I have vested interest that I think communications is central to the success of that. One of the sessions that I was in earlier was all about trust and the importance of trust as the AEC comes together. And I think there's nothing that's more central to trust than having open and honest and transparent communications. And that's the business that I've been in for the last 27 years, and something that I think is central to the success of the future for this region.
And you've been based in this region for a while now. You're an avid observer of the communications from governments around the region. What is your observation of Jokowi's him and his administration's communication so far?
So I've been in Asia since 1991 and have observed a lot of different leaders in their communication styles. I saw Jokowi in Beijing in, I think it was November during the APEC summit.
Yep.
And I'll tell you from, Obama was there, Putin was there. It was really a fascinating conference for me, and I've been to several of these. His talk was most memorable. And of course, Obama and Putin were good, as well as Xi Jinping, but his talk amongst the most of the ASEAN speakers was most memorable because he was so genuine. And I think he had just recently come into office, and this was one of his first big meetings. And he was genuine and very open and appealing, and spoke in English and a little bit of broken English, but it was fine because you could feel how authentic it was.
Yeah.
So I was most impressed, and we've worked with the World Economic Forum for many, many years, and when I knew that this meeting was going to be down here, I made it a point to be here because I want to follow his leadership style.
Now, sustainable growth. It's you're saying here that the Asia Pacific governments, companies, people need to maintain what you call a sustainable communication. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Well,
what's a sustainable communication?
Well, I think it's what's more important is the opportunity that's here, and when Jokowi was in Beijing for the APEC summit, he talked about opening up to all different businesses to come in and invest and be part of the rise of Indonesia. So, to me, there's a growth opportunity there. There's actually, you can feel when you walk around this town, you can feel the energy coming from this country. And I can, I test that there's lots of hope, and you can feel the energy even when I sit in our office. How to tap that and how to grow that is, I think, the challenge, and how that gets executed. I mean, I think what's really important is the broad brush vision is there, but how it's executed. So for me, sustainability is about how you're following up with that, what you're doing to deliver that. And that's where I think is important. And that's where I think communication is central, because you got to bring people along in that process.
Yeah. And we noticed that he's been speaking the same language from one trip to the other, from APEC. He was in China, he was in Japan, and now he's using the World Economic Forum to the stage to communicate his projects.
I think that the platforms to do so and his thinking behind it, I think are brilliant, and I think he recognized that he's got to bring people along. I don't think people recognize how much of a challenge it is when a new leader comes into place and everything that they have to go through to continue there and deliver on their vision. So there's a lot of complexity there. But if you have the broad vision and you have the will, you can succeed. Mm-hmm. But it takes focus. Mm-hmm. It takes lots of communication. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do as an organization.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think in terms of getting the integrated economy going, leaders and governments of the 10 Southeast Asian nations has been speaking the same language in order towards this goal of integrated economy at the moment?
I mean, what I think needs to be done, and that's you got to have some small milestones. You got to have some small steps. You got to celebrate those, and you got to keep focused. So, I've never worked in the public service before, but I've definitely put together communications programs around how state leaders speak. And I think that's what's important, is the small steps and the milestones and making sure that you're seeing some progress along that continuum.
Yeah. And you were also at one of the sessions today that discusses on digital,
right.
How digital is influencing or impacting how we communicate these days, and it's also impacting how government communicates to the public as well. And you've been in Asia long enough to see that transformation.
There is a leapfrog that's taking place out here that's on par with the rest of the developed world, and so I think the way in which governments embrace technology and use that as a platform to communicate is very important. Digital communications is changing the way people consume information, and how adept governments are in addressing that and embracing that is very important.
And what do you make out of that conversation on digital transformation and how it's affecting the government today?
Well, I think it's making sure that the thing I took away from this morning's session is making sure that people have accessibility to technology, so they have the same chances to succeed as people in, let's say, in big cities, so people in the rural areas. So what I took away from the session this morning is making sure the rural areas are able to bridge that digital divide so they have the same chances.
All right. Okay. We're still talking to Scott Kronick, the president and CEO of Ogilvy Public Relations, and we're still talking about one of the most important elements of in this forum, which is communications. And we'll be right back right after this short break.